A season-high 24 three-pointers for Golden State in a matinee win over Charlotte. Let's tell you what went well coming up on the show.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's good, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, breaking down a Golden State 132-125 road win to ring in the new year over the Charlotte Hornets, who have some young, impressive players. I want to tell you all about them, get you informed on some of the association, but this is Locked On Warriors, so of course, we're breaking down how the Warriors got it done. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now's a great time to tell you that the Locked On Podcast Network is your team every day, and it's the #1 sports podcast network out there. Find the show on YouTube and wherever you get your audio podcasts. My name's Charlie Walter. The host name, it's Matt Kolsky. All right, let's get into it, Kolsky. 132-125, the final. The Warriors gift wrapped I think it was a 14-point lead, swung the other way in like a 2-minute span where Charlotte could not miss. And from there, a lineup combination insertion where I thought Gui Santos gave the Warriors some incredible minutes today. Draymond Green re-enters and was one of the stars of the game. The plus-minus backs it up. And of course, when you're knocking down 24 three-pointers, Steph Curry usually has a little bit to do with that. He had an awesome homecoming game. I guess the question that I ask you out of the gate is, with the Warriors knocking down nearly 50% from three, 24, and really having an overall team performance, like Podziemski stepped up, Santos stepped up, Post got him going early, Draymond, Curry. How was this a ball game?
Well, actually, you don't have to look much further than the box score in this one. It is 19 turnovers, parentheses, 28 points. That stretch you talked about, where the Hornets erased a 14-point lead, it was 81-67, 9 minutes to go in the third quarter. And by 4:53, so 4-minute stretch, and the Hornets had taken a 1-point lead, 89-88. So that's 22-7. And in that stretch, you had Gary Payton and Brandin Podziemski come in, then Moody and Draymond. You had some missed threes. You had Melton missing a three, turning the ball over. You had a bad foul. And really, it was on the other end with the Hornets just going absolutely nuts for 4 minutes that you probably, did the most damage. But if we're looking overall at why this wasn't a 30-point win, because you're right. I mean, throughout most of the night, the Warriors outplayed. It's hard to figure this out, but I bet if you took out the shooting stats of that stretch, the Hornets' shooting stats would look terrible. I mean, as is, they look perfectly good. But the Warriors were better. They shot the heck out of the ball. They hit 24 of their 49 threes. They, were on par with a more athletic, younger team in terms of rebounding. It was a good performance other than giving the ball away. And once again, it is the main players who are the main culprits. Steph with 5, Draymond with 4, although I thought it was one of his best games, honestly. He played really well. But Jimmy had 3, and so did D'Anthony Melton. It's weird to say this after this game, but I feel like this was another one where you see, how much D'Anthony Melton helps this team. Not because he's great, because he hasn't been great yet, but just structurally, he's a huge help, even compared to the other night, right? When he wasn't playing in the back-to-back. And then secondly, how much even more he would help if he was actually playing his best, which he has not been doing. So, there's two things we learned from that, and it's the two, I think, biggest needs for this team. Certainly the one biggest now that Melton's back, and that is scoring. This team just needs scoring that they can count on. They need a third guy they can count on every night. And I don't know that Melton can quite get to that level, but hopefully they can trade for that. And I mean, look, even if it's an Andrew Wiggins level scorer, right? Like that pretty consistent 16, 17 points a night would do wonders for this team right now, because it would make it so that even when you are splitting the superstars up in Jimmy and Steph, there's still two guys who can actually score on the floor at any given time. Because you mentioned it, some of these lineup combinations, I feel bad for Jimmy Butler that he has to work so hard to get offense for this team when he's out there with like a combination that's something like, Gui, Post, Gary Payton II, and on the bright side, Podziemski on a night like tonight. But sometimes it's not Podziemski, it's Will Richard or Moses Moody or whatever, or bad Podziemski. Like, it's just a struggle at times, even in a game where they had 132 points. The way they shot the ball, if they had that third score, they'd have had 145 tonight. So
I thought during that stretch, man, to open up the third quarter where the Warriors were just hot, I think it was the first 3 minutes of the quarter, they turned a close game into just a complete blowout for a little bit. I thought they did a really good job of just denying the entry pass, denying first pass to the wing, whatever. They made the Hornets start 30 feet away from the basket, and it was forcing Charlotte into some bad looks. So defensively, I thought that's kind of what sparked that run. And I don't know if it was this exact run, but there were a couple times in the game where Al Horford knocked down some big shots. Only played 13 minutes. The stats aren't anything crazy, but I thought he looked pretty good out there, man.
I told you, dude, just give Al time. He knows what he's doing. He's 39. He's not going to turn back the clock to 2010, but he is still one of the smartest guys in the league. He is still a capable shooter when he gets it in rhythm. And he's still playing great defense. I mean, it really does feel, I actually didn't notice any big blocks tonight. Tonight feels like the first time, he didn't have a block tonight. But I feel like almost every other appearance, he has a couple of big blocks where you're just like, you know what? Nobody else on the team is going to do that. So Al's going to be there when it counts. The question is, how much does Al contribute to the effort of getting where you want to be for that when it counts, period, I still think more often than not, you're going to live with Trace replacing him on those nights when he's not there. But this is why I don't think you need a center, because some nights Quentin Post really helps you. And I thought he was pretty good tonight, although he needs to rebound better if he wants to play more than 15 minutes a game. Trace has been really good in that sort of deputizing role, playing minutes when Horford's not there. And Horford, I think, is rounding into form. So, again, you could upgrade center for sure in the trade market. But for me, that sort of wing scorer and or ball handler is still the critical need.
Well, there's a big man that apparently the Dallas Mavericks have reached out about potentially swapping. It's not the Warriors that did the reaching out. We'll give you the full report on Anthony Davis, the latest. All right, when we return, I want to get into some of the ancillary pieces from today's game that provided the glue. Gui Santos, Brandin Podziemski, and friends. That's straight ahead on Locked On Warriors.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Today's episode is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel. Fridays always feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. It's your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You open up the app, and there's always something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprise. Easy to check the weekly specials before tip-offs and make the move before the window closes. Add a little energy to your Friday. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Let's get back to the show.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
How about the minutes the minutes that Gui Santos provided today, 17 minutes for the Warriors, 13 points, 5 of 6 from the floor, 3 of 4 from deep, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, no turnovers, 2 offensive rebounds. There are some games where Gui does this. He just comes in and gives you instant energy, and then you don't see him for 2-3 games, or you see him in spot minutes. That's why it feels like, and maybe this isn't the case because it was kind of the same way last year and never really felt this way, but it does almost feel like a tryout. I mean, how many more guys played? 12 dudes played in the game today off the bench for the Warriors, 7 off the bench, so 12 overall. Feels like you're almost trying out which combinations work before a consolidation trade is clearly in the works. And Gui Santos has worked his way into, someone that you could rely on for 20 minutes a night. I truly think so. Your thoughts on that take?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly depends on the structure of your team. There are still some lineups where Gui's out there and I'm cringing because, he's not a player that can create any offense himself. But if he's hitting threes, he's kind of a no-brainer because we know he's an absolute just effort monster, right? And that counts, especially when you're his size. Like, he's big enough to do some damage at that size. He's obviously an excellent rebounder, and he knows what to do offensively. I mean, I think one of the reasons Kerr has preferred him over Kuminga so many times in their careers is that Gui is a mover of the ball on offense, and he really doesn't even attempt any shots other than wide open threes or something at the rim. That's the shot diet that is correct for his game, and he does everything else pretty well. So you like him in a reserve role for sure. But again, it depends what that consolidation trade is ultimately, right? Because if that consolidation trade is the one I think you're going to suggest in a little bit, that might not be good for Gui.
How about Brandin Podziemski and his minutes tonight? I think he finished with 19. He did 6 of 9, 5 of 7 from 3, hit a one-footed floater, the rare leaning to your right, one-footed floater shot that I guess isn't rare when you're watching the Charlotte Hornets because LaMelo Ball takes them all the time, man. But and it's not a terrible shot for LaMelo. It's not a terrible shot for Wemby. I think you would call it a terrible shot for Podziemski, but he hit it. It kind of sparked a run. He's been playing really well. He shot 50% and 40% from 3 in the month of December. We're on to a new year. Can you believe that Brandin Podziemski, with some of the struggles that he's had from deep, is a 40% three-point shooter on the season?
Yeah, because I think for me, unlike so many Warrior fans, it seems, I set my expectations for Brandin Podziemski based on what I've seen from Brandin Podziemski on a basketball floor. And I would agree with people who say you wish there had been more improvement over the last few years, especially given the fact that he is the one young guy that has gotten consistent playing time and faith from the coaching staff. And that's fair. But I think, other than a handful of really terrible games, he's been pretty good this year. And certainly over the last, 6-7 games, quite good. And as you said, shooting well, at least in the month of December. Now, he does have games where he disappears, at least from a scoring perspective. But usually, even in those games, he finds ways to impact it. So I've never been so upset with Brandin Podziemski, but certainly tonight was one of his better games. And the 3 ball does seem to be getting hotter lately, which is something the Warriors can hopefully take advantage of here.
Box score for the Warriors looked as such. We mentioned the shooting, 55% from the floor, 49% from 3. They got to the line 17 times and hit 16 of them for 94%. Yeah, the rebounding battle was completely even, 37-37. Each team had 35 assists. So there were some similar numbers there. 11 steals for the Hornets compared to the Warriors' 7 steals. But player-wise, Butler had 19, Draymond had 10, Quentin Post had 9, and shout out Draymond for that tip in late. That was one of the biggest plays of the game. Will Richard came crashing too, but Draymond
had
put
a
it
3
in.
late, had the tip in late, played some great defense, forced a turnover late. I mean, look, say what you want about Draymond. In big moments of games and seasons, he is still one of the 3 guys on the roster that you trust to make an impact. in those big moments.
It's not saying a ton, but yes, 100%.
I mean, that quality is why he's going to the Hall of Fame. So it's saying something.
Yeah. No, I'm saying on this current team. But
Fair enough.
26 for Steph Curry, 7 for Moses Moody, 13 for Santos, 8 for Horford, 9 for Payton, 7 for Melton. Pat Spencer got back in there for 6 minutes, went 0 for 2 from the floor. Podziemski had 19. Will Richard played 17 minutes. He had 5 points, 3 assists, and a couple of rebounds. On the other side for the Hornets, it was 4 or 5 guys that really stole the show for them. Knipple had 20 on 7 of 11, 4 of 7 from 3, 8 assists. Great young player. He's going to have an outstanding career if he could stay healthy. 27 for LaMelo Ball. He also had 5 and 5. Brandon Miller stole the show, though. He had 33 points, 14 of 29 from the floor, 3 of 12 from 3, had some highlight reel slams, plays some pretty good defense, I thought, or at least out on the perimeter with some of his closeouts. You were saying that this guy's a perennial all-star if he can knock down some jumpers consistently.
Yeah, he's got to hit threes. And unfortunately, that percentage has gone down each year of his career. Now, he's been hurt a lot, but boy, when you watch him out there, he can be really exciting. He's an awesome athlete. They list him at 6'7", and maybe that's right, but he feels like taller and longer than that, the way he plays out there.
Doesn't
really
he?
athletic.
He was like 6'10".
Yeah. Really athletic, getting to the rim. And just like he's game, he's got that dog in him, as they say. But if you're shooting 3 for 12 3-pointers, and he's in the low 30s this year, I forget what exactly his percentage is, but that's going to hold him back from being like a real superstar level player where you're a perennial all-star. So we'll see on that. But he's an exciting young player, and so is Knipple in a totally different way. He's like Brandin Podziemski on a lot of steroids, with a even more reliable 3-point shot.
I think it's Clay, man. Doesn't he remind you of Clay?
No,
Really?
Clay never met a pass he enjoyed for the first 5 years of his career. Just a totally different approach. And
same way, though, that they score without dribbling, and then they do a really good job. Like when Knipple,
he can.
When a shot's missed, he does a really good job of like relocating. Or when he makes the pass, he does a really good job of relocating and always staying ready within the offense, where some people just kind of fizzle out in the lane after they make a pass or whatever. He's always moving.
Yeah, there are some similarities, sure. I just think so many young players move so much more actively and better, and I think that is due to Steph and Clay both and their success and the Warriors' success in general. But he's, I say Podziemski because does a little bit of everything. He does handle, especially for a guy that size who's not like a super athlete. He is smart. He plays good, if not, excellent man-to-man defense. He's smart on that end. Just the kind of player any team can use and fall in love with, for sure. Those guys both are fascinating, and it's just so hard to know what to think with LaMelo because, God, he was 9 of 13 tonight, 7 of 10 from 3, and it looks incredible sometimes. But, half of those 10, and he might have gone 2 for 5 on the bad half, which is still 40%, but half of them are wild nonsense shots. And, 5 turnovers, at least one of which was an insane over his head alley-oop attempt. And then he took a crazy early shot clock, long distance 3 in the final minute, I want to say. He's just he's not serious. And I've never quite seen someone that good be that unserious consistently on an NBA floor. It's a puzzle. Now, he's never been on a good team. Who knows what would happen if he played on a team that was on track to win 50 plus games. But yeah, they got to figure that out. That's the future of the Hornets, is what do you do with LaMelo Ball, and does it involve keeping him or trying to trade him? Because I believe they're paying him an awful lot of money.
When we return, a new report that's come out by Sam Amick saying that the Dallas Mavericks reached out first about Jonathan Kuminga, willing to depart with Anthony Davis. Thoughts on that? It's straight ahead.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. You want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where Gametime comes in. The Gametime app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets, fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Best parts about it, closer you get to game time, cheaper your tickets are going to be. You find everything in one place. It's consolidated. You see the prices up front. You're not going to get any surprise fees, panoramic views of your seat, and features like zone deals to help you unlock great seats at even better value. Whether it's an NBA game or another live event, everything is right there in one place. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. All right, let's get back to the show. Talk a little Anthony Davis.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully, we'll never find out.
The latest report involving Anthony Davis sounding like it's at the very least real chatter. Will it come to fruition? We will see. But I guess the most important thing about this, per Sam Amick, is that the Mavericks called Golden State about the Davis possibility and not the other way around. When this is all said and done, if you want to look at this big picture, the Mavericks would be trading Luka Doncic for Jonathan Kuminga. Not great. But while the league sources have said that the Mavericks do have the Warriors' Jonathan Kuminga in mind, who can't be traded until January 15th, it's expected to be dealt before the deadline. The fifth-year forward salary of Kuminga, $22.5 million, comes well short of Davis's $54.1. It would require another big contract. Say Draymond Green, it's literally the exact same amount of money you could do Green and Kuminga for him. What's more, it should be noted that Golden State was called about the Davis possibility. So I bring this up to you again. We talked about it many times, but Kuminga, Draymond for Anthony Davis. Let's say you got Anthony Davis healthy the rest of the season, playing the way that he had been playing. Would you take that gamble then? Mute monster, gotcha.
Let me rewind briefly for you. Just because you could do it without Draymond. Now, it would involve a lot of other things. If it's JK and Draymond, you're basically upgrading Draymond right now because JK's nothing right now. So you're basically upgrading Draymond to Anthony Davis, which is...
And that's an upgrade. Healthy Anthony Davis, that's an upgrade.
Certainly an upgrade if he's healthy. Let's put the injury aside for now. But yeah, you'd be a better team. I combining the fact that I don't know how much better than the one we're watching right now, and the fact, yeah, I mean, you'd be a lot better. Just the fact of Anthony Davis, if he's healthy. The problem is you just can't trust him to be healthy.
But you got to take a gamble, right? That's the roulette wheel we were talking about. Like,
right.
If you don't do anything and stand still, you're not going anywhere.
What I think this does illustrate is that Jonathan Kuminga remains one of the best trade assets around the league, which is something that's already been reported this year by, somebody on The Athletic. I can't remember who, but executives believe Jonathan Kuminga is the best asset because he's a young player who we already know can score 20 points a game if you just let him have the rock, whether he does it efficiently or not. We know he can do that. And this year he was the Warriors' best rebounder when he was on the floor. So he's shown he can do that as well for the first time, really, at a high level. And he's young with potential, and he's not that expensive, and it's a player option next year. So
a team option.
That's what I meant. A team option next year, which, again, improves his value. So he's a good asset. He's 23 years old. If Anthony Davis is on offer to you, basically, for Jonathan Kuminga, because I don't think the Mavericks have any real interest in Draymond Green long term. That might be part of a multi-team deal, because if they're unloading Davis, they're probably going young, right? I mean, that's what you would imagine. So if they're basically willing to trade Davis for Kuminga and say we're going forward with Cooper and Kuminga and Derek Lively and we'll see what
And
happens.
There's a first in there.
Right, and a first round pick, whatever it is. If that's on offer, as in they're calling you, then I imagine there's other things on offer as well. So, and I don't think it might be as paltry as people are imagining. Would Anthony Davis for Draymond improve this team more than just Trey Murphy? Probably, but given the injury concern, maybe I'd be more inclined to take the more guaranteed, slightly smaller upgrade, right? Is there another deal where you can combine those two salaries of Kuminga and Green, which get up near $50 million, and get another $50 million player, of whom there are several that could theoretically be available, not to name any names. So
we dipping back into the Markkanen well in your hypothetical universe.
Why not? He's averaging like 28 a night, career high. Why not? He's still a good fit for this team. You're telling me that guy couldn't play with Jimmy Butler? He could play him at center. So you could go Steph, whoever, Melton, Podziemski, Moody, whatever. Steph, two guard, Jimmy, Draymond, Markkanen. That team's much better than this one. Much better. And, maybe it's, what's Markkanen make? Like 30-something? Maybe it's more than that.
No, it's 50. They get.
Oh, it is 50. Yeah. All right. So even if Draymond's in that, like your playoff starting five has Steph, Butler, Markkanen, and Horford, I feel really good about that. That is three legitimate all-star level scorers. That is, relatively big, actually, size-wise. There's a lot to like about that for me. So, yeah, I would definitely be calling Utah about Markkanen if they haven't called you already. We already know there's some interest in both Kuminga and Podziemski, right? I would definitely, to the extent that Milwaukee's – in fact, it's probably not Milwaukee. I would have Steph texting Giannis. Listen, bro, we're ready to send whatever the Bucks want. And you and me, my guy. Remember the All-Star game? Like, that's what should be happening right now. Because, we all talked about the options heading into the season. Even before they signed Kuminga, their options were deal the guy, sign the guy and play him to some positive effect, or sign the guy and trade him. And those first two options are out the window, my friend. They didn't trade him in the offseason. They didn't move on from him. They paid him but didn't play him, which was the dumbest of all possible options. And now we know they're going to trade him. This team
bubble
has
wrap
to
season.
trade him.
Yeah, it's bubble wrap season for him.
Exactly. At this point,
there's no
reason to play.
There really haven't been many reports on it in the last week or two. Anyone asking like, hey, Steve, you just said like,
yeah, you know why though? It's because the decision has been made and no one can say it out loud because of the league restrictions, but everyone is okay with it.
He's not gonna tell you the truth anyway, right?
Well, Steve wouldn't tell you the truth anyway, but I don't think there's any reason for people to put him in a position to continue lying, because the one report we've had recently is Jonathan Kuminga's furious and his agent has had he and his agent have had multiple meetings with Steve Kerr. Like, if his agent isn't talking right now, it's because they've already had the conversation. The agreement is we're trading you. Just we have to wait because of the contract restrictions. We're still 2 weeks away from this.
Don't go up to Tahoe or anything.
Right. Just be careful. No accidents at home.
Yeah.
And you'll be out of here like you want in 3 weeks max. And the sooner the better at this point. So yes, they should be kicking every tire, knocking on every door. And again, if the Mavericks are calling them about Anthony Davis, then there are other options as well that they should consider before pulling the trigger on Anthony Davis. But I will say it is not super hard for me to envision a world where the Warriors front office does their due diligence and come to the judgment that the best option they have is to take that gamble on Anthony Davis and say, you know what? He's going to have less to do here than maybe ever before, although you could have said that with LeBron. But, his scoring burden is going to be lower than ever. We are not going to burn him out. We love our training staff, and we believe we can get the guy healthy. And if you believe that, then obviously you'd like to have a healthy Anthony Davis. So it certainly seems realistic. Whether they end up doing it, I will see, I guess.
Hey, the new year's going to be fun, man. 132, 125. The Warriors ring 2025 on a positive light to end it. They're 18 and 16
Let's go.
in the season. And Happy New Year, my man. Appreciate you for coming on today.
Same to you. Happy New Year. And God, 2 games over 500. I barely remember the last time that happened. Let's go.
Let's do it. Locked on Warriors, everyone. Thank you. Have a great New Year.